my my uncertainty was pretty high. So I couldn't say that that's like some sort of constant. I'm talking more like people talk about Newtonian gravitational constants and like how that was derived from Kepler and empirical observation, and those seem pretty robust. I'm just interested if you think that since those aren't persuasive to you, if there is any sort of like relation between objects and some, colloquially called downward force that is either linear or exponential.
Well, you see, when we are, for example, in an electric field, yeah, you have it, the construct of a electric field is a binary construct, positive and negative charge. So you have uh, a positive plane and a negative plane. And in between these planes, you have the electric field. Now, a particle which is in this field, according to its charge, will be attracted to the opposite field. So, if the particle has a positive charge, it will be attracted to the negative plane. Now, if the particle is negative charge, then it's attracted to the positive. When you have two particles of positive charge, they repel each other, and particles of opposite charges, they attract each other. Yeah. So this
Yeah, I
is
mean,
how
I
we
usually
explain. Yeah, how we explain um, the working of the electric force current. Now,
could I usually use
electrostatics.
Coulomb's law in this case. Is that what you're doing,
Yeah.
or do you use something else?
Um, yeah, also Ampere's laws.
Okay.
And it's pretty much the same with electrostatic field and uh, magnetic. Both of these forces manifest in a binary construct field. Now, gravity has a problem because any model of gravity you look at, it's a unidirectional kind of force, like exclusively attraction. There is no repulsion. Anti-gravity doesn't exist. In the scientific community, if you ask a physicist about anti-gravity, they will tell you it's impossible to exist. It's an aberration.
Yeah.
Now, this is a kind of force which contradicts the existence of all these forces, known forces that we actually deal with in everyday life. We deal with magnetism, electric and electrostatic, but we never deal with gravity because it's actually a manifestation of all these three. And it's hard
Of
to
these three.
deny.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
didn't quite catch you. Yeah, okay, you said of these three.
yeah, the three electric, electrostatic, and magnetic forces of nature.
So usually when I look at these things plotted out, it's the electromagnetic field. It's all dependent on each other. If you change one part, one other must change. Like since magnetism and electric fields are inextricably linked. That's how I've
Yes, they are
usually seen
linked.
it.
Correct. True, they are linked. And we have electromagnetism. Um, I don't know how electrostatics is linked to this, but yeah, electrostatics with electricity does have a lot in common. I've seen someone, a guy, who actually made a motor uh, working on electrostatic charge.
Okay, that sounds cool.
Yeah, they are not powerful motors, but yeah, it's functional. You know, they work.
Hmm. I guess since you don't find modeling of Newtonian,
Were in 1600s or 1800s, Newtonian gravity was perfectly enough to describe the workings of nature. Yeah, the physics of nature. But with today's technological achievements, uh, it's clearly that it has been debunked, this theory. Newton said mass attracts mass. Yeah, an object with mass attracts an object with mass. When you look into physics, what is mass? You will find mass is resistance to acceleration. So what Newton said is that resistance to acceleration attracts resistance to acceleration.
yeah, that makes sense.
Now, maybe for you, but not for me. It's like
Oh,
a dog running for his tail, you know?
it's yeah, I mean, I get why it wouldn't make very much sense.
Yeah, it's a circular reasoning kind of
Oh,
fallacy.
let me see if I can put that into words on my own. Since angular momentum between these forces want to be shared, they want to be shared. Okay, so like since inertia wants to be stopped, it wants to be stopped. Yeah, okay. Yeah. It's circular. It's
Yeah,
derived into existence. It is defined into existence.
yeah. So if I have like billiards or snooker balls, yeah, on the table, I spin one, then I spin another one. So uh, and as they slow down from their spinning, um, the first ball that I spin is actually slowing down because the other one is slowing down and it's causing this one to slow down and they also attract each other. It's- this is what Newton is asking me to believe, you know?
Let me see if I can model that in my own head. If we have billiard balls on a table and
Yeah,
then they start spinning, the
yeah.
resistance to inertia would seem to increase as they get closer together. But it's not necessarily the case that they would come closer together if there's enough friction stopping them.
Newton didn't like his own idea about
Yeah,
that either, did he?
Neither did Einstein. He superseded it.
yeah.
Okay.
He
And if it's
said,
the balls are so small they can't attract towards each other, we're going to throw Cavendish in the barn.
yeah,
I don't know anything
Key
about
action
that.
at a distance, right?
All I know is that it just seems to be like when I look at people, when I look at people using Newtonian gravity and they're able to,
and they work. We can create cycles, whatever, but those are already programmed. And if it virtually works, something virtually works, doesn't mean it's actually reality.
Add a third ball in that in your
Yeah.
simulation and see what happens.
yeah,
I can
Oh,
go ahead
isn't
and
that like what Kepler and Newton were trying to like figure out when they were looking at the celestial bodies? Or am I wrong on that?
mm,
you know all those little letters in the equations and how they
Which
stand for
equation?
things. Like any equations to do with like gravity and mass, right? I could go ahead and I could keep those letters, but just give them a different meaning, right?
mm,
And we'll
Could
still
you go through an
observe the
example?
same thing. Like I could say G means gnomes. There's all these invisible gnomes everywhere that are doing this thing, this invisible things. And mass could mean like literally, like the M could stand for magic. Whatever you want it to stand for, right? It's not going to change the result.
Okay. Yeah. So like the magic of two objects can be multiplied with the gnome's constant divided by the radius squared to give you uh, a verbunden, and that verbunden would be derived correctly. And then if you use a derivation uh, versus time, you can then plug that uh, into some sort of coordinates, co-moving coordinate schema that allows you to use Hubble's parameter to get you all the way to the acceleration equation. And so, like, yeah, I would agree with you that that's like all true. I'm not sure it's very useful to replace all those things with magic and
okay,
gnomes.
but why doesn't NASA use this Newtonian gravity celestial model to make the celestial predictions?
I don't know.
Because NASA is using ancient Babylonian knowledge, the Saros cycles, for their celestial predictions. This is very ancient knowledge, these Saros cycles. People have observed the cycles happening in the sky. They wrote them down and they count them and they found that they are repeating each other, and we still have them ever since. And we based on those observations, we can even today make predictions using them.
Okay.
But they
Can
were
you?
they were invented on a flat Earth, though. Is the main point.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome. Can you render that cycle? Can you give me like
Just
either
search it,
the
dude.
okay, I'll do that. Can you render that argument for me?
I think you just did.
Okay. So like what are the equations used? Like
I just
what's the
posted.
cycle?
I just posted it for you because I actually run a live serocycle all the
Mhm.
time. I can go back and forth in history or into the future. What do you want to know?
Okay. So what does this graph tell you?
Tells me exactly where the sun and moon are at all times
Yeah.
from my location right now because I have it set for my location.
Okay. And so NASA uses your graph?
It's
Go to
using these.
NASA.com and search Serocycle, and it'll take you to their page, and then you can you'll be able to read about it.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Can you? I'm I'm kind of lazy. Can you just render the argument for me?
No,
Okay, fair enough.
Well, these cycles, they tell you also all the eclipses that will occur and the type of the eclipse, and even red, yellow, bloody red, violet moon colors and stuff like that.
Okay.
So, uh,
So
for
NASA uses like
example, how does the heliocentric model explain over a period of 10 years, a guy took pictures of the moon, astronomer, he took pictures of the moon with 48 different colors.
I got no idea. We did talk about like color theory, and I'm not sure that that's like within the scope of
Yeah, you
discussion.
see,
I
the
posted a link
moon.
for you for the NASA Eclipses Serocycle, just so you can go and do all the math yourself, like I did.
Okay. I mean, again, I'm just lazy, so I probably won't do it. But thanks for the link, though.
You can also remember that he's making a separation between the observed phenomena that we do from everybody can do from observe from the ground, and it's being put into cycles, recorded cycles, right? That post date the event that has been happening for generations. So from the observation in the ground, we observe the phenomena, but he's thinking about this in the model of the heliocentric, in the construct of the air going around the sun and how that works in that model, that fantasy model. And yeah, it's making a separation between the observable phenomena in reality and the fantasy model of the Earth being one of those bodies that is moving around the sun.
Yeah, that is a very wrong kind of approach. When you look into solar cycles, you don't think about flat Earth, you don't think about heliocentric model. You only think about what you see in the sky and the way you see it. Um, when we look at the sky in nighttime or daytime, we never see.
I think that's true of most pictures. I'm not sure if there's any picture I really care about without a story attached to it.
Well, we could write comics for you, same as the Globers do.
Oh,
I don't
yeah?
want
That'd
to.
be awesome.
I'm lazy. I'm lazy like you, so I don't want to do it.
I get that. Yeah, I get that for sure.
This
I'll do
goes
both.
back to what they were saying about the difference between proceeding by inquiry versus proceeding by assumption, right? So you just take the observations as you see them and you go on the raw observation without any assumption, or you look at the moon and you say, I know exactly what that is, how far away it is, what size it is, what's making it do the thing that it does. I would say that that's a good way to think about how flat earthers, quote unquote, are approaching the earth and reality versus how we approached it when we believed in the globe. You're almost shutting yourself off to a lot of the inquiry and the possible learning by assuming you already know what's going on. So,
I don't think I'm doing that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying you are. I'm just saying in general, when you believe in the globe model, it's easy to assume that you know what's going on above your head, and for that reason, basically ignore it. Whereas on this side, it's a mystery, and there's a lot of questions, so people are kind of digging into it. But You sound pretty reasonable. What's your background?
I'm a blue collar worker. I don't do anything and anything.
Okay, well, that's cool. No, that's good. You, on a scale of 0 to 100, how much would you say you believe you live on a globe? 100 being 100%, 0 obviously not true.
Yeah, I don't know. The problem with credence values like this is like it's pretty much based on, it's like arbitrary. So like
Yeah. I mean, it's nothing serious. I'm not surveying you. I'm just asking generally how confident you are in it. I mean, I don't know how much you've heard of this conversation, this topic, how new you are to it. Is this your first time speaking to people about it?
it's like the third time, I think.
Okay, so you're still pretty new to it. Do you understand our main arguments, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I share a lot of them. I think that it's good to be skeptical about reality, about what people say, and it's good to have a healthy skepticism towards, institutions, because power and the influence of institutions have on common thought is very powerful. That's of course reasonable. Like that's no one's gonna. I mean, there's a great guy
Right.
named Paul K. Feyerabend that I think you guys would love reading.
Yeah, no, that's true, but I wouldn't say that our main argument is just skepticism. I mean, our main argument would be the observations and the measurements taken of the surface. Have you heard about that?
Observations and measurements taken of the surface. Which ones? Just refresh.
Like of the surface for curvature.
What are those measurements? You'll have to remind me.
Well, I'm just saying, like, what people are doing are they're going out and they're testing line of sight, because the globe model necessitates obstruction over a distance due to curvature. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. So what people are doing, for example, is they're going to let's say that a lake that's 10 miles wide. Do you know, and I wouldn't expect you to know off the top of your head, but even just roughly how much curvature you think from point A to point B over that lake is, according to the globe model?
I don't. I would guess it would have something to do with like refraction and normal lines and Euclidean equations.
No. I'm talking about like geometric drop due to curvature. Like on one side, let's say it's 0. How many feet of drop is there going to be when you get to the other side of that lake 10 miles away? Do you think it would be like a centimeter, a meter, 10 meters?
A mile away?
10 miles away.
10 miles away. No,
10 miles away.
No, I don't know that measurement.
Do you think it would be a lot or a little?
Relatively a little, I guess. Probably like
Okay,
60 feet or something. I don't know. I don't even know how to. I don't even know how to like do that.
No, you nailed it. That's pretty much it. So they say it's 66.6 feet. Nothing to see here.
Okay.
Which is it's a fair amount, right? So if you were at the other side of that 10-mile lake, according to the globe model, there should be 66 foot of geometric drop between us. So you would be obscured by like 50 foot of curve, like a hill between us. Yeah.
That sounds reasonable. Yeah.
Yeah. So what people are doing is they're going out and they're testing that. They're like, right, well, I shouldn't be able to see you here. And then they take out like a high-powered zoom lens or telescope or something, and they see them. And they're like, oh, okay, that's weird. I can see you. You're not beneath a curve. And people have gone out with lasers and other devices and things just to basically test how far of a straight line you can draw across the surface before being obstructed. And it's what everyone's finding is that there's no obstruction as predicted by a curve of a globe the size that they tell us. So we're pretty much here. I mean, there's a million other arguments that people are making, but it always boils down to, well, is there a curve? Because, I mean, if you're going to talk about gravity, satellites, NASA, all of that relies on you being 50 feet below a curve across that lake. And if you're not, then all those other stories can't be true.
Yeah.
So that's I mean, I don't know if you're part of our server. We've got 24/7 Flat Earth Discord. We've got additional information channels, and there's all these observations are there. Not all of them. I mean, there's countless by now, but there's a lot of them on there. So you could go and have a look at those, and if you live near a body of water or something like that, you could go and test it for yourself. That's what I would recommend.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know the exact measurements off the top of my head. I
No,
just like I
of
look
course.
at
And this is what you have to learn about. Like, you can go onto Google and just type in curvature calculator, and you can get a bunch of them. Distance to horizon, that's another one. We're supposed to have a geometric horizon that we can calculate how far away it will be, and you can go and test that on a body of water. And the calculators are all available on Google, so you just put in your observer height, and it calculates it for you. So yeah, but this is part of it. You have to learn about like what the globe actually predicts we should see in reality, and then start comparing that to reality, basically.
Have you ever like looked at the mini Wonka curve experiment?
I don't know if I have. What is it?
It's done by some nobody, just like a YouTuber, and
You say Willy Wonka?
no, mini Wonka. It's a lake in Canada.
Sorry.
Mini Wonka.
Yeah, it's Lake Minnewanka, and so he does measure occlusion. I don't remember how much, but the other shore does disappear, even with his very powerful lens. So like,
yeah, well, this is the thing. I mean, you can get results that might appear to conform with what the globe model is saying, and that's fine. It's when we get the results that don't conform that cause us a problem. And it would be like, if it didn't conform in a certain way, it might be excusable. Like if the geometric horizon is supposed to be 5 miles away, and because of the conditions, you only see the horizon at like 3 miles, right? That's fine. It can be less because of the atmospheric conditions. But when you start seeing it way, way beyond where the physicality of that surface is supposed to have gone and disappeared, that's when it starts to get more complicated, because then it's not like it's not less than what it should be, so that surface could still be curving away. It's like that surface is flat way beyond where it's supposed to be. And then you get into, they'll start saying refraction, but they don't actually have any model of refraction or recorded refraction that is ever supposed to have been able to move a geometric horizon way beyond its limit. So basically, that's where the argument is at. There's a claim of refraction as to why we see too far, shoot lasers too far, but there is no actual evidence to this rebuttal of refraction. There's nothing like substantial behind it. There's some assumptive theories and calculations about how you could model them going over like 7/6R and stuff. But even those like models don't get you to the distances that we're seeing. Like if it was supposed to be 3 miles and it was ended up being 3.5 or something, you could be like, okay, yeah, maybe there's some atmospheric conditions doing something there. But when it's 10 times further than that, like way beyond what can be explained by any kind of refraction, it's just a no-go basically. So yeah, the main argument we're making is that the surface is not curving like it's supposed to be, so the whole ball story cannot be. That's my little spiel. I'll go on mute. Good to hear you, Biget. I haven't heard you in a minute. Hope you're well, my friend.
Not curving at all, actually.
Yeah, good to hear you too. Thank you. Pleasure.
Yeah, good to
Always a
hear you,
pleasure.
bro. You too.
So-
Family.
That's it.
well, I always thought that like Edeline's like empirical observations of refraction coefficients and Snell's law were able to model that refraction accurately, but like maybe it could be definitely wrong about that.
Yeah, nah, Snell's law requires multiple mediums, like isotropic mediums. Like they'll give you the example of putting a straw into a glass of water where you're dealing with air, glass, and water. But we're just talking about the air here, so it doesn't really work with Snell's law. And they'll say, oh, but it's like different gradients of the air, but even that, it doesn't work that way. Like they don't even have evidence of the light. Well, no, in terms of like the horizontal layers of the atmo that we have in terms of pressure and stuff, you're not going to be like to increase it enough so that it would start curving around the surface. It would almost have to be getting more dense in vertical layers rather than horizontal, like we actually have. So the refraction argument, I mean, there's some people who've tried to make simulations and like you can move the sliders to see things that are actually behind hills in front of hills because of refraction. That's not how refraction has ever been claimed. So it's a lot to get into, but yeah, the refraction argument doesn't hold up.
Can you explain to me like why the refraction coefficient isn't capable of explaining it? Like I've seen these like uh
Well, I
images.
just said what it was doing. I just said what it claimed to do in terms of putting a geometric curve behind an object that it's actually supposed to be in front of. I mean, that's common sense, not what is being observed or demonstrated or seen by people in reality. So really the burden would be on a person saying, yes, that's possible. I could see you in front of a hill that you're actually behind. And that would be on them to prove, which they can't,
Okay.
because there's no demonstration of that.
There was
Well, the problem is
someone
also that they're utilizing a word. They're saying refraction, but there's multiple types of refraction, and they're saying that this word that they're saying is doing what they claim it's doing without any demonstration. They cannot verify. They cannot demonstrate that it's just they're saying a word, and that word has some powers, and it means that you don't see the globe because the word reflection is hiding it from you.
yeah, you'd have to trust some old guys who are I think dead now from like Scandinavia. And you'd have to trust their empirical investigations, which like, you know, if you
Why
don't,
can't why can't you just go do it yourself? Why do you got to trust somebody else? I have a
because I'm lazy.
P900. I know you're lazy. You told
Yeah.
them you'll go do this and that. You ain't doing shit. Even if you go to a body of water, you won't even look now to see if it's
Okay.
flat. 'Cause you're probably afraid of that.
Wait,
Yeah,
talk
I
to
guess so.
Astro Scientist. When you say that he's lazy, you're saying trusting other scientists is lazy? Like if it's been
What
proven by
scientist?
Hold on.
anyone whatsoever?
Let's not get off into the weeds. Let's not get.
What
I'm lazy. That's
It
scientist?
just
What
does sound
scientist?
we don't
strange.
care. We don't care. Epsilon,
Okay, yeah.
please.
Okay, yeah, right, yeah. My fault.
No, you're fine. You're fine. I just really wanted to get hammer home at like the white swan image that someone else showed like yesterday. I thought that was really interesting. So like it seems to be the modeling and the
Oh, it's not a white swan.
refraction
It's another
coefficients
black
that we
swan.
currently have are able to explain it. And like when you talk about
No,
common
yeah, but
sense, like standing on
you,
the
you
back
said
side of the
modeling.
hill, that does seem to be something we can see in reality, especially when we look at the black swan image versus the white swan image.
It's not
So
a white
it
swan,
does
sir.
seem to be a robust way of appraising reality. That's
It's
just what it
another black
seems
swan.
like.
It's not a white swan. It's another black swan. And you said modeling, correct? Right. So
Yeah,
that would
yeah.
be
Like when we use
that
these
would be prediction.
coefficients.
Right. That would be a prediction. So when you don't predict though, what you do is you go to your Earth curve calculator or your horizon distance calculator. You punch in your observer height and your target distance, right? And then you don't punch in any sort of value for the refraction index or temperature variance or air density variance. You just punch in that, and if the observation doesn't match, you can just slide your little refraction bar, which essentially just increases or decreases the radius value of the Earth to match the observation. So it's an ad hoc excuse. It's an explanation, yes. It's not a prediction. It's not a model. It's assumed.
Well, the reason why I say model is because we don't know the barometric pressure. And since we don't know that, we have to just make assumptions. And that's what I mean when I say model.
Well, there are air refractometers, but these instruments are very expensive, and
Yeah, definitely.
there are no, look, there are these weather stations, and vast majority of them in the world, they do not own a air refractometer.
Oh,
It's
okay. I didn't know
only
that.
a hand. It's only a hand of them that actually own these instruments. But these instruments, they can really measure the refraction index of the air. And to measure it, like you are measuring the transparency of the air. How transparent is the air in a certain time of the day?
Yeah, that's like I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure that's where
But
Edeline.
this, you see, this refraction index of the air is in constant change. It's never constant, like has a constant
But
value.
but as at sea level, the refraction index is 0.0003 or something like that.
Yeah, approximately, but it varies between 0.003 to 0.004 and 2, and it varies.
Yeah, that's what I like. Edeline's equations, like for standard air, you can like derive all sorts of refraction indexes for all sorts of temperatures and pressures. And since we don't know the pressure or, frankly, the
Yeah,
temperature
but
in the air,
you see, actually, the refraction index, the air will be a perfect transparent if you have a refraction index of 1. So 0 is a very highly refractive value.
uh-huh.
So the closer it is to 1, the better visibility you have.
Um, hmm, okay. I thought the closer it was to 0, but I don't know.
Are weather conditions reducing our ability to see further or increasing it?
Yeah, good weather conditions increase and bad weather conditions decrease visibility. Like how much dust particles are in the air and vapor, humidity. Plus the temperature pockets.
We need you Globers to finally accept the fact the moon landing was fake so we can stop posting all the moon landing stuff.
The moon doesn't exist.
See, that's your cope now.
Yeah. The moon is in the sky.
Well,
It is
Apollo
there.
11 and Apollo 12 Earthrise, they got the same Earth that day. It was whatever the magical things that lined up, they got the same Earth.
Oh, I have a question about the moon launch, landing. Like when they went with the Saturn V rocket, like the most powerful rocket of NASA, yeah, built. At the launch, uh, that rocket generated a sound of 220 decibels. So how can any astronaut or any living being can be inside that rocket, let's say like 10 meters away from the source of the engine sound, rocket engine sound, which generated the sound of 220 decibels. Like they literally needed like 2 meters or 1 meter at least of armored concrete steel, reinforced concrete, and it had to be suspended on special rubber cylinders to isolate from that sound. Do you know
Well, once you
what it
get in space,
means?
there is no sound. Remember?
But what it means, a sound of 220 decibels, like 80 to 90 decibels, human can lose hearing. Now, you are in the danger zone when you are at 80, 90 decibels. At 120 decibels, a lot of people, vast majority, they lose their hearing. 120, 140. Now, 180 decibels is so loud that it will make your body boil from the inside out. It's just like being exposed to microwaves. Now, 220 decibels, it literally blows you to dust instantly. Like,
Where are you getting all this stuff? You're just making it up as you go along.
yeah, at the Saturn V launch, the public, the spectators, yeah, they had to be at 20 miles distance away to look at the rocket launch to be safe. They needed a distance of 20 miles away because that sound was so loud. If they were any closer, they would be losing hearing or even die, you know?
So when
Yeah,
they
do you
test
think decibels
smaller
are
rockets,
linear? They're,
yeah. So when
I
they
was
test
just going to
smaller
say,
rockets at NASA, like where I live, or they used to, they don't do that anymore. 70s and 80s they did. It was so
Yeah.
loud. We lived 5 miles away. It was so loud our houses were shake.
Yeah.
yeah, the decibel scale is logarithmic. It's not linear, folks. So 220 is some serious vibration.
Yeah. It's exponential in
Yeah, they made NASA stop testing them because, as people start moving into the cities around there, they don't want to hear that shit.
yeah. So they really needed those slides, spiral slides in the rocket, so that the astronauts were sliding down underground beneath the rocket launch, where there was a solid bunker built, and uh, it had 1 meter thick walls of concrete. And this bunker was suspended on special springs, yeah, so it absorbs and lets those vibrations to propagate. Otherwise, the astronauts inside, they will be like melting.
Well, that's why Buzz is so fucked up.
You really think you're onto something, don't you?
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Someone's very quiet on the mic.
Oh, Scotty trying to budge in here. Oh.
Oh no. He heard the decibels. I'd like to hear the Globe response to that argument. I haven't heard that one before. I like it.
Yeah,
It's too loud.
it's a very good one.
Well, it's actually hollow. Checkmate, atheist.
I posted what it is that he's talking about. James
Hmm.
Burke, he talked about the emergency precautions for the Apollo Saturn missions.
Is that
What,
the
you mean the
slide? The slide that
propaganda
they had?
missions?
Yeah, they showed you how they did it in Capricorn 1, the movie. Where they were
Yeah, they
doing the
basically
movie.
showed you the moon landing was completely faked and how they did it.
Yeah, you guys should watch Capricorn 1.
I saw Capricorn 1 when it was
And then they
even-
forgot how to get back.
They forgot the cameraman.
Oh my goodness, you guys are funny.
Thanks, Scott. We appreciate your attendance as always. We know you can't get enough.
Daily reminder.
Hey, you guys are very entertaining. I give you that.
Well, it's
Thank you.
It's funny because
Truth is
gonna go
entertaining.
We forgot how we got to the moon. Fuck.
Someone in the back's really quiet. Who is that?
Yeah, that's me.
All right.
Yeah, you guys should read the Adam and Eve story. It's pretty interesting. It's about magnetic waves.
No.
And, planet's gonna go bye-bye.
No thanks.
Wait, you don't believe that? Why do you think the government's building all this stuff in Hollow Earth underground, my dude? They're gonna ride it out.
Because they're gonna fucking launch a bomb.
Underground, my dudes. Love that.
I mean, if you're gonna be on the surface, you're gonna get wiped out.
Wow, this
So
guy's
where are you going then?
He's
I'll
a
probably get wiped
conspiracy
out too.
All right, you're along for the ride. Fair enough.
Yeah, I am. If I'm up here, it's over. If you read the Adam and Eve story, I guarantee you're gonna shit bricks.
So what's their end goal?
To survive.
But why
Just to
would
have
they
more
destroy it?
space?
Why don't they just leave it like it is and then keep enjoying their wealth?
They
No,
want
I
the
didn't say they
resources.
were.
They want all the stuff for their fucking kids and their fucking.
They
shit, right?
need bigger pools, so we need to be
Yeah.
gone.
That's it,
Yeah,
man.
you can say that. You can take the cynical outlook, like he said. They just want it for themselves. But no. I like if you read it, you'll see that it's just the Earth's magnetic field. It's not like
Well,
it's
who
gonna
wrote it, and what was their
Adam and Eve
evidence
is a
for the
myth.
claim?
I forget exactly who, but the CIA bought it and then they censored it. So when you read it, it's going to be a trip. If it is real, right, then we're in for a
Not
ride.
real.
I'll put a link to it in the chat.
Yeah, I can find it.
Even people who study religion say
I enjoy
Adam and Eve
story
is a
time
myth.
as much as the next guy.
One
CIA
sec, while
story time. It's always nice.
Yeah, it is literally CIA story time.
You know it's legit because it's from the CIA.
It is. But I mean, they censored it, so.
The most honest organization going.
But I'll be silent while I'm getting it because
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
All right.
Oh well, boys. So there you have it. We're all going to be wiped out soon. So get your Discord hours in.
Cool.
Think they have Discord in the
It does seem that
subterranean
way, bro.
wilderness?
It does seem like a bomb's coming.
Yeah, you guys need to start
Atom
digging.
bombs are fake, kids. Don't
Gotta
worry
start
about
digging.
it. You watch too many movies about atom bombs. They don't exist.
I don't care what kind of bomb it is, brother. I'm just saying they're coming.
It's all good, boys. We're along for the ride.
Don't worry,
anyway.
you're not gonna feel them for too long.
That's it. We won't feel it.
Yeah, by this point, they pretty much just vaporize you, right? That's probably easy compared to what most of humanity have had to deal with.
Price you won't have to pay taxes anymore.
Yes, we'll actually be
One good
free
thing,
of the government once they vaporize us all with their laser beams from the sky.
Well, you don't
Good
think a
stuff.
war is coming?
Oh, I don't. Well, it's already going on.
Well, we'll be in a perpetual war for
I mean
decades.
a big one.
For how many generations the world has been in perpetual war?
I
The
found
world
it.
has been at war, right? But just not a world war.
I've been in this meme war for about 10 years now.
It's
I'm
true.
a
I'm a
vet.
meme
there's
veteran.
Meme war. Oh,
There's
no.
meme wars.
Uh,
All types of wars.
Infowars. Check it out, infowars.com.
Infowars. Christian Planet.
Buy your
Okay,
vitamins.
There is a war for your mind.
Yeah.
there it is. Okay, flat Earth.
Just buy
Enjoy.
yourself a 10.
What about the Earth being flat?
Be alright.
Here you go. I linked it. So it basically just says
Thanks.
like, you know, the flood, how we got wiped out. Well, that's according to this, you know, research. You can say, you know, whether it's real or not. But the guy depicts that we're gonna be facing at least another cataclysm, and
I
that
feel like I
How
have
does he-
actually heard about this.
Yep, it's really interesting. Highly recommend it. That book tripped me out on so many levels.
So
You know
what,
what's
it's about
cool?
the poles shifting?
Yeah, basically. And then when it does, everything on the planet gets, you know, a lot of earthquakes, a lot of lava, and it just pretty much wipes out
Planet.
most life in humanity, our planet. And then
Oh, so you're talking about Fantasyland. Okay, I get it now. You're talking about like fiction.
Yeah, what is
I
this?
mean,
Game
what
of
happened?
Thrones? What is this?
No, it's
True,
already
because
happened.
Adam and Eve, even people who study religion claim that Adam and Eve was a myth, and it's not based on anything real. Oh, okay, you know that. Just want to make sure. Okay.
Guys, he said this happens in the planet Fantasyland, so it doesn't happen in the realist level. He's talking about fiction.
It's not like
But it-
alien planet. Yeah, I know you guys can say it's fantasy, and hopefully it is, because then we won't all die. But if it's
The
not
planet is
fantasy,
fantasy. That's a fact.
We're all gonna
Okay.
die. That's okay.
yeah, we live in the Matrix. Well, we are all gonna die. You're right. So technically,
Matrix. That's a movie. Isn't that a movie?
wait, you don't believe we live in the Matrix, dude? Fantasy.
Do you believe it?
I was making a joke. You don't want to make a joke now? Oh, only you're allowed to make
I'm
jokes.
dodging bullets out here, so I
No,
must be
I
in
mean,
the Matrix.
The Matrix is a joke. The planet is a joke.
I tell you what's a good one for the kind of Hollow Earth
Oh, what is this idiot doing?
sci-fi side.
Yeah, what do we
The
think
book-
about Hollow Earth?
The book Dorpa, which is Aphrodite backwards. It's a very strange little niche book about a guy who claims to have been contacted by a secret society akin to the Masons or something like that, and he goes on this mad adventure into the subterranean Earth.
Yep.
You Globies will love it because he talks about gravity reversing and all this nonsense, but it's actually a cool little blend of old school was like 1700s life and Hollow Earth, I suppose.
Once they say gravity in the story, fantasy story, the Globes are gonna be, this is
like,
based in
whoa.
reality.
He falls
Gravity.
so far, he starts to reverse the polarity.
Yeah,
But
gravity.
it's still even with that, it is actually a good read. And on YouTube, there's some guy who's like read it out as an audiobook, so you can listen to it as an audiobook. It's called Dorpa. It's just Aphrodite backwards. Very like occult, alchemical type of book. But yeah, you should check it out if you're into that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's get it back on topic. The Earth. Who's got a question? Who's got an angry comment for us?
Dude, we're talking about Hollow Earth on the side chat. I'm just trying to figure out what's up with Hollow Earth.
You son of a... Well, the Earth can still be hollow, but it's not a curved ball.
It's totally hollow. Well, you could also
I mean, not
say
totally hollow, but you'd have like subterranean... I mean, we do have subterranean bases on Earth, right? They've got these military bases and all sorts, so there's definitely big subterranean caverns and things. How many, to what depth, to what extent, who knows? But yeah, we do have hollow sections.
Yeah.
There's caverns
not
that are
all.
bigger than many buildings in many counties.
Yeah, we can
Yeah, you go
agree
to
on that.
Southeast Asia, a lot of their temples and things, they've utilized some of these massive open spaces as like underground temples, and they're crazy.
And I
But
want
yeah.
to tell you guys, a lot of people also regard religion, made up, but it's around the world that you see all these myths, all these religions talk about the end of the world already happening, once before, at least once. I mean.
Oh yeah, I mean the idea of repeated cataclysms isn't unknown in the flat Earth community. Trust me, a lot of people are very much into the idea that there's like regular resets of humanity, and that's why history is so fucked up and all this kind of stuff. But
Agreed.
yeah, it's
So
a bit
that's
off topic.
I was kind of making earlier is there's only a few humans left over, and they got to start over from scratch every time. No wonder everything's so screwed.
Yeah,
Well,
the thing with the
you
hollow
remember
Earth theory, when it's being pushed normally, it's like a hollow ball. That's the part that we'd have a problem with.
Okay. Well, yeah, I've never really cared too much about that. I've just found the hollow stuff and UFOs interesting. But yeah, granted.
It's interesting.
I got something for you guys I came across.
Yes, Crip, do it.
Okay, so I talked about the overview effect and Edgar Mitchell, Apollo 14, bringing the Bible to the moon, looking out from space and talking about this kumbaya moment that all people are connected. He wants to drag a politician out to space and say, "Look at it, you son of a bitch," right? He really thought this overview effect, but the Apollo program was going to be a renaissance, a change in the way that people think, like kind of like the way it was during the Age of Enlightenment. The space age was going to bring about this massive paradigm shift. The days of tribalism and everyone nuclear disarmament, anything's possible, give it a try, right? Just make a better world. Apparently, at some point later on, I had not known this part of the story, he completely cracked and started talking about reptilians in the government and stuff. So I was like thinking, that's pretty hilarious, because a lot of time people will say flat Earth is a dangerous conspiracy. You end up talking about reptiles in the government. Well, maybe the guy who started that conspiracy theory was none other than Apollo 14 commander Edgar Mitchell. He was so dumbfounded by how bad these politicians were that his only logical conclusion was they're aliens. They're reptilian aliens who just don't value human life or the Earth, right? Like it's some sort of like they live, or I can't remember the other one too, where they're terraforming or de-terraforming or terraforming Mars to their world. Oh crap!
Terraform?
No, it was the aliens like had like a weird sort of praying mantis look to them, and they had a lot of
The Arrival.
Oh yeah, hold on, let me see. Like
Charlie Sheen, The Arrival.
Is it
yeah,
kind of
or
like
was it Bill Paxton was the hero in the movie?
Gotcha. Oh god. Aliens are gonna come and take our water away from us. The bodily fluids. Oh, I love
No,
that.
it's gonna be, well, boys, the aliens are here. You know what that means. Time to get your jabs.
That'll be time to get your jobs. That was pretty funny. I like. It's shown to be a liar. Wait, what?
Yeah, I guess it wasn't Bill Paxton. It was
Are you thinking of Enemy Mine? That Bill Paxton was in that, I think.
No, Enemy Mine was when they yeah, it was The Arrival. I just looked it up. Yeah, you're right. I some reason I was thinking The Arrival. I got mixed up with that one that just came out, where the aliens were like in some sort of dimensional thing, and she's holding up a sign to try to get them to understand the language. But yeah, it is The Arrival. So The Arrival, they basically, the aliens land and they take over, basically take over all the third world countries, and then that's kind of explains why America is constantly at war with all these third world countries. Is they're fighting this this quasi alien invasion, and then then Charlie Sheen figures it out, and then somehow he's got to dodge these assassins, but at the same time it's like, but yeah, was it the one you said with the spaceship that crashed? Well, anyway, okay, getting back over to it, is that it's pretty hilarious how if Globetard is true, then they say flat Earth is a dangerous conspiracy theory that is undermining all the great things that America and whatever are doing for the world. It's like ingrateful for all the progress that humanity has made. No, actually, if you think the Globetard is true, Edgar Mitchell was so dumbfounded by what he saw, right? That going to space was such a profound, moving experience, and he saw nothing changed here on Earth. So his conspiracy, quote unquote, some conspiracy theory, or in fact, is that there are aliens in control of the federal government, reptiles, because they don't value, life or human life.
It would
I
be
had
an
a
interesting
screenshot of it.
last-ditch effort from the US government to turn around now and be like, "Now, guys, we know yous are all pissed off at us for going and bombing all those poor brown countries, but we have to tell you something. They're all alien reptilians, and we're
Yeah,
just
their
fighting the
governments.
aliens."
We were going into those countries
This
to
is like
destroy the
Starship
alien.
Troopers.
Yeah.
We're going over there and wiping out these bugs.
Wouldn't that be like a big just kick in the face? And this whole time I've been like super critical of the federal government. Federal government sucks. Federal government sucks. Federal government has routinely saved the earth from alien takeovers. Like,
well, that's it. The usual crowd now would be turning around and being like, "See,
that would
they're fighting
be
the aliens."
by definition. It will be correct because if you have a foreign invader, that foreigner is an alien.
Oh
by
yeah, that's right,
definition,
Jim.
guys.
Yeah, you go to Iraq and you tell that Iraqi guy, "You're an alien. Get out of here, alien."
Actually, if you go to Iraq, you're the alien.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah.
Am I missing something? Is this a flat Earth channel where we're talking about aliens?
Yes,
yeah,
we're
aliens
trying to
in the
get back on
fictional
topic.
sense.
Very difficult.
Aliens in the fictional sense, by definition, it means in fiction, beings from other planets, right? That's in sci-fi, cartoons, anime, like fantasy storytelling. But then if you put it in the real context, by definition, in the etymology, an alien is a foreigner, someone from another land that is not native to that land.
Here's a
right?
topic.
That's an alien.
So who's going to be looking at the
Valky-
solar apocalypse, eclipse in October 14th?
Where's
Really
it visible
cool, man.
from?
It's going to be
United States, yeah.
visible basically diagonally in America. So going from the north west down to the southeast of Florida.
Well, I'm sure some people will be.
If you want the full eclipse, but most of North America will see a partial eclipse. It's going to be in the morning. The 14th is Saturday, I think. You should be able to see it.
I got like a viewing party that's all set up for it.
Nice. And remember, the
But
Earth is
going back
flat.
on-
That's how we get these eclipses going.
Well, no, but you look up and see
Oh,
the sun's the
man.
same size as the moon, and why would you go any further than that? Why would you say, well, it's not? Okay, they're not the same size. They just happen to be a perfect, like ratio away from each other to appear like they're the
They're
same
not
size.
perfect.
Why haven't
And
NASA
then-
got us footage of an eclipse from like the side? Let's get a
Those are
different angle on it.
coincidence theories, it's a coincidence, Earthers. Everything's a coincidence.
Yeah, they just
Well,
happen to look the same size.
Yeah, just by chance. Valky, tying it back into flat Earth topic was that a lot of globalists will claim flat Earth is a conspiracy theory. Not just a conspiracy theory, but a dangerous conspiracy theory. Like it's responsible. Like people have died because of how dangerous flat Earth is. As a conspiracy, it needs to be silenced. It needs to be shut down because it's harming people. So here, if you look at the story, though, the story is that Apollo 14 astronaut Edgar Mitchell, the brainchild of the overview effect, the Earth is a causal agent. You'd have this overview effect, an instant cognitive shift about what Earth means and its place in the galaxy. He deemed that the federal government was controlled by shape-shifting reptilians. Yikes!
Nobody thinks flat earthers are dangerous, Crit.
Yeah, you need to stick around here, okay? Just the other day,
I'm pretty sure the danger. of
Scotty,
flat
you're
Earth
just a contrarian, bro. You're always going to the
is,
contrary.
it's really a lack of belief.
Also,
It's-
kind of like
it's-
atheism, then, in the way you could
it's-
frame it. Flat
it's
earthers
more-
are like atheists towards the globe. They're just not convinced or have a lack of belief in the globe.
Yeah,
So
remember
instead
when,
of going,
when they join and they say, "You guys don't believe in gravity"?
Atheism is more of a rejection of belief. Flat Earth.
Yeah, they
is
believe on
like
the globe, the
lack-
fantasy globe. Yeah.
its lack of belief in that it's completely contrarian to the globe. There isn't real proof that the Earth is flat. Otherwise, I would believe that the Earth is flat, and I would know that the Earth is flat because it would be self-evident.
Like self-evident truth, that we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. They are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights.
Well,
Is your
I know my
legal
balls
definition
exist because if I
of
hit myself
self-evident.
in the balls, they would hurt. So that's
Yeah, look at
that's
remember
what
that
I
it
mean by
always goes
self-evident
it
truth.
always goes down the dick, man. You
As
guys are
I
so
said,
degenerate.
all Globers just like to talk about their nuts because that's all they've got left.
If I look at the moon.